Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly check out Dead of Winter. This game is for 2 to 5 players for ages 13 and up, with the average play time being between 1 and 2 hours. So Dead of Winter is a semi-cooperative game that puts players in the middle of a zombie apocalypse during a harsh winter season. So not only do they have to deal with zombies, but also like hypothermia, things like that. Well, the reason I say this is semi-cooperative is because on top of having to complete a group objective, and that group objective will change from game to game, but on top of that, they also get a secret objective card that they're trying to accomplish before the game is over. And some of those are betrayer cards, which is sort of like the traitor mechanic in Battlestar Galactica. In fact, this game is very similar to Battlestar Galactica, except though instead of Cylons and spaceships, you have zombies and the like. So players are going to be contributing cards to a crisis as they come up every round, and these crisis cards are put face down so no one knows who is contributing what to this crisis, and that's where the traitor mechanic could possibly come into play. So without further ado, let's take a quick look at the components and see how the game is played. Alright, so first and foremost, this game can be somewhat involved. There's about 20 or so pages in the manual. So there's a lot of rules to cover, a lot of components to cover, and to that end, I want to keep the review moving. So I'm going to be jumping around a bit. I may miss some things, but I'm going to try and give you the basic overview so that you could see how the game is played without getting too involved with the details. So here is how everything is going to somewhat look at game setup. You're getting a lot of space, obviously. There's going to be more of these on the table per player. I don't have any other players set up. But the way this works is you've got this colony board up here, and this is where your survivors start. You even have these unnamed / no-named survivors that you also have to feed on a regular basis, and the number of which you get will depend on the crossroad cards that come up or the scenario. I'll explain what all those cards are in a minute. But just keep in the back of your mind that these no-name survivors will be added to your colony sometimes throughout the game. Now, each player also gets 2 survivors. They draw 4 at the beginning of the game. They look through them, and then they'll choose 2 to keep. And here's a look at all of the different survivors. As you can see, there's a lot here. You've got, like, Sparky, the stunt dog. There's a little number in the upper right-hand corner for influence, and that comes into consideration whenever you're dealing with, like, combat and the like, but I won't get into that right now. But just suffice it to say that there are a number of different characters. They have different stats in terms of roll to hit and roll to search whenever you go to do those actions. So yeah, different characters, different influence points, just keep that in the back of your mind. Some even have special abilities, like the mayor here. Anywhere, once per round, you may increase an unused action die you control by 1. Sophie Robinson, a pilot. Anywhere, once per round, you may look at the top card of a single location items deck. After you've looked at the card, place it back on top of that item deck. So different characters have different abilities. Once players get the 4 cards, they'll choose 2. They'll find the appropriate figurines. There's a bunch in the box here that I'm not showing you. And then they'll put a little stand on them and then put them on their character. And then they go over there in that colony over there. And then this deck will remain available throughout the game because some cards will allow you to get more characters. Or if a player loses both characters and you're not playing on like a hardcore mode, you can get a new character and continue playing. So there's that. As far as the rest of the colony goes, there's a round tracker over here and a morale tracker here. Typically, whenever the morale tracker reaches 0 throughout the game, players automatically lose. Rounds will track your progress throughout the game. A lot of these objectives, speaking of objectives, you've got some objective cards here like 8 Weeks of Darkness, Kill Them, Find a Cure, Home Sweet Home. And on the reverse side of these cards is a hardcore mode, and it's basically a tougher time, which is pretty interesting. So there's that. You've got how to set up the game, the victory conditions, the time it takes to play, that kind of thing. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. You've also got crossroad cards throughout the game. The player to the right of the active player will actually take the top card and read it to themselves. And if that condition happens, like on the very top, is a condition. So, like, if the player controls Loretta and she is not exiled. So if that were the case, in the case of the active player, the player to the right reading this card to himself would say, you know what, this is happening right now, stop what you're doing, and then they're going to read off the scenario, and then players will actually vote between different options that are on the card. And, you know, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. In most cases, you have to make a sacrifice somewhere. So these crossroad cards are condition-based, and the player to the right of the active player will be reading them silently to themselves and then triggering them whenever they come up. If they don't trigger during that turn, then it goes simply to the bottom of the deck again. So that's that. The crossroad cards, those are just put off to the side. You've got these crisis cards, and once per round, these crisis cards will come up and will task players with contributing to this crisis space here. For example, overpopulation. You need food equal to the number of non-exiled players. So if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you've also got, 6 players, or, well, that's the number of players, rather, so that's just 3. You've got 2 per character, so that's 3. So you need to contribute 3 food to this crisis contribution throughout that round or that turn in order to succeed in that crisis. If you fail the crisis, kill 2 non-exiled survivors with the lowest influence. Optional, add 2 additional food cards to gain 1 morale for preventing the crisis. So basically, long story short, crisis cards will be drawn every round, and players are going to have to try and deal with these crisis cards, because if they don't, bad things happen. On top of that, they've got this objective that they have to worry about. Now, only one objective will be active throughout the entire game. The rest is just pushed off to the side. So you've got these crisis cards that come up. You've got a waste pile. As players contribute food or whatever the case is, they'll be played to this waste pile. And after 10 cards build up there, at the end of the round, if this waste is not clean, for every 10 cards there are, morale will drop by 1. So you want to take out the trash, so to speak, on a regular basis to prevent your morale from going down. Now, when I'm talking about food and medicine and all this other jazz, that's where these cards come into play. You've got some starter items that each player starts with. Each player gets 5 cards to start with. Those include things like food, you've got fuel, you've got medicine, you've got food, oh, there's another food card, and junk. And whenever you play these, in most cases, they'll go into the waste pile. But when you play food, for example, you can add it to here, for example, to contribute to a crisis. Some of these other cards have other abilities that you can use them for. For example, medicine. Not only will medicine be used in certain crisis situations, but you can also remove any type of wound token from a survivor you control, or remove any type of wound token from a survivor that shares a location. So you can basically use this to heal yourself if you don't want to use it for a crisis. So there's that. Each player starts with 5 of these starter cards, and it says starter on the very bottom here, starter item. So at the very beginning of the game, you're going to be shuffling these different decks. There's the police station here for this location. There's the grocery store for this location, and so on. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff here, and I'm not going to get to it all. But each player, again, will have 2 characters. They get one of these round summary boards here. The group leader will go to the left, and the follower will go on the very bottom. I just don't have enough room in the camera shot or on the table to fit this person on the bottom of the card, so I'm just going to put it here for right now. As far as I can tell, there's not much of a difference between a group leader and a follower. I think it's more flavor text for those of you that like to role play, and some of the crossroad cards may involve that the group leader do this or the follower do this, whatever. So it's very situational, and there's not much of a difference. The actions that you can take with a group leader are the same as the actions that you can take with a follower. So I think it's just mainly for the story, for those of you that like to role play. And I think that's basically it. I already explained the trackers. Oh, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boards. As zombies are added to the game and are added to the colony, they're going to be added in sequential order. So they'll start at the 1 zombie will go here, 2 will go, and then 1 will go here, 1 will go here, 1 will go here, 1 will go here, and so on and around. So the 1 and 2 will fill up first usually, and then the 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Now there are barricades tokens that exist off to the side here that players can put down in order to basically take the place of a zombie. They can give one of these barricades up. Like if there was a barricade token on the 1 space and a zombie were added to it, you could use the barricade and take that, or you can get rid of the zombie. Instead of putting a zombie there, you just get rid of the barricade. So it's sort of like an extra defense there. There's some other tokens over here. You've got a wound token. There's the red side, and the blue side is the, I think that's the hypothermia token. That's the hypothermia side. So basically, whenever you roll for hypothermia, Actually, there's dice that I didn't bring out. There we go. Like I said, there's a lot of components. Every time you do something in this game, you're rolling for exposure. And then whenever you roll for exposure, either from moving from one place to another or attacking a zombie, you roll, and then there's a wound a wound result here, hypothermia result here, which is worse than a wound, and then you've got this infected, which is very, it's there's only one of it on the die, but when that happens, it's sort of like, it's insta-death, is basically what it is. And then other survivors will actually get infected if they happen to be at the same location. So yeah, a lot of stuff here. There's a first player token here. There's a starvation token here in case, at the end of the round, if you don't have enough food to feed your survivors, you have to put a starvation token down. You lose morale that way. It's one food token will feed 2 survivors. So you want to also make sure that there's enough food in your food supply. What else did I miss? Oh, exiled cards. Players can actually vote other players out of this game if they think that they're a traitor based on their secret objective over here. So, and their rules will, like if someone gets exiled, their objective card goes away and they get a new objective based on what the exiled card says. So I'm actually running out of space on my, my camera here, so let me turn the camera off, unload, and pick this back up again. Alright, so yeah, my camera can only record in 10-minute spurts. I don't have a dedicated video camera. This is just a DSLR. Anyway, these secret objective cards, each player gets 1 at the beginning of the game. The way this works is you're going to deal 2 out. Basically, you're going to create a pile. There's 2 for each player in the game. And then you're going to add one of these betrayer cards to that. So each player will then get, 1 of those cards. And it could be a regular objective, in which case they're friendly. If they happen to get a betrayer card, then, they're going to have a different objective. Instead of trying to help complete this main objective, they may have to do something else to ruin everyone else's day. So there may be a traitor in this game, there may not be. It all depends on who gets what card. And I think that covers everything. In a 2-player game, by the way, setup is slightly different, and you have to play a cooperative game. In the cooperative game for 2 players, each player gets 3 characters instead of 2. And they also receive a certain number of dice. Each player gets 1 die for each character they have, plus 1. So in a 3-player game like this, each player starts with 3 dice because there's 2 characters and then plus 1. And these dice are going to be rolled on a round or during a round in order to allow them to do different things. And I'll get to that right now. Alright, so now I'm going to give you a quick overview of how a typical round plays out, and to do that I'm going to use this little summary card here because this is really handy. There are 2 different phases during a round. There's the player turns phase and the colony phase. Now on the player turns phase, that's what you start with, you're going to reveal a crisis card. So this gets flipped over like that. And you have to, read that off to everyone, make sure everyone understands what they have to do. In this case, medicine is equal to the number of non-exiled players. So if there's 3 people playing, you'd need 3 medicine contributed to this crisis contribution section. Again, those cards are contributed face down, so that no one knows what you're actually contributing. If you're the traitor, for example, you might contribute food. And for every card that is not medicine, it actually counts against the medicine count. So if as a whole, if the group contributes 4 medicine, but there's a traitor in the midst and they contribute 2 food, then that 4 minus 2 is 2, and that isn't enough to meet the 3 that is needed to actually solve that crisis. But anyway, getting back to this, reveal crisis, then everyone is going to roll their action dice, and again, everyone gets 3 dice at the very beginning. It's 1 for each character, and then plus 1. So in this case, there's 3. Now, if you get more characters throughout the game, then you're going to get more action dice. If you have 5 characters somehow, then you get 5 action dice plus an additional 1, so you get 6. So players are going to roll these dice, and different numbers will come up. It's a 6-sided die. And then that's that. And then player turns. Now, each player is going to take turns doing various things. Some actions require dice, some don't. The ones that do is attacking. So each character here has a little attack symbol on their character card, and that's the number that you need to give up. Like you've got a 6, a 3, and a 1. So I could not use the 1 die and give that up in order to do the attack action because this is not high enough. However, the 6 is high enough, and the 3 is high enough for this character. Mike Cho here, who is a ninja, also he has a combat of 2, so he needs a 6. The 3 will work, or the 1 will still not work because it's not high enough. So you can attack other players or zombies by giving that up. Every time you attack a zombie, you have to roll for exposure, which is this die here. And I explained that briefly before. So that's one thing. You can search. Again, same thing. There's a little search icon here. You need to roll a certain number in order to do that. Now, in order to search, you have to actually go to the location in question. So if you were to move one of these guys over to, say, the grocery store, every time you move, by the way, you also have to roll for exposure, unless a character ability says otherwise. So to move here, you'd roll for exposure. There's a little space here for him. But anyway, you can also search, and again, you have to give up a die, but the value on it has to be equal to or higher the number on that character card. So there's that. You can search. Whenever you search, you'll draw a card from this deck. Now you can, if you don't like the card you got, you can keep searching, but you have to add a noise token to this, and that actually has a chance of spawning more zombies during a later phase. So you can get more cards, but at the risk of adding more zombies. If this location gets overrun and someone is still there, bad things happen. So you can also barricade on your turn, and you can add barricades to the colony up there by adding those barricade tokens. You've got clean waste. You can get rid of 3 cards in the waste pile. Again, as you add food, let's say you play a food card, you're going to play it to the waste pile, and you're going to add these food tokens to the food supply spot over here on the right. You can do that, but that's for cleaning waste. So if you have to give up a die to clean waste, you get rid of 3 cards, and then attract 2 zombies. So after that, those are the actions that require dice. Actions that do not require an action die: play a card, add a card to the crisis, move a survivor, spend food tokens, request, hand off, vote to exile. Remember, the player to your right must draw a crossroad card at the beginning of your turn. So again, if it's my turn, for example, the player to my right, which is this person over here, would draw a crossroad card. Keep it to themselves. They'd read off the top here, and if that condition happens to take effect during my turn or at the beginning of my turn, whatever the case is, they're going to tell me to stop. They'll read off the situation, and then players will have to take a vote or whatever the case is. So that's a very interesting mechanic that way. If nothing happens with the crossroad card, if it never activates, it just simply gets discarded back down to the bottom of the deck again. And that's basically all the different things that a player can do on their turn. And then after that, that ends the player turns phase. Alright, so after the player turns phase is over again, everyone's going to take their own turn in this particular phase. So I'll take my turn, then this player will take their turn, this player will take their turn, and so on. Once everyone has had a turn to resolve all of their dice, then we'll move on to the colony phase. At that point, you're going to pay food. Again, each person over here, or each food token, can handle 2 people. So if you've got, say, 6 people over there, then you need 3 food tokens to stay fed. If you're not fed, then you get one of these starvation tokens, and the morale will drop. After that, you're going to check waste. Again, for every 10 cards that are in the waste pile, your morale is going to drop. So you want to try and take out the trash as often as possible or as needed. Resolve crisis. Players are going to check the cards that were contributed to the crisis contributions pile, and then see if it meets the requirement for that particular crisis, and that's that. And if it doesn't, of course, bad things happen. There's a condition on the card. Add zombies. You're going to add 1 zombie for every 2 survivors or every 2 people on this colony occupants area over here. So if there's 6 people over here, then you'd add 3 zombies, 1 for every 2. So again, you'd start off with the 1, and then you put another zombie on the 2, and then you put a zombie on the 3, and that would be that. And then on the next round, when you go to add zombies, again, you go all the way around like that. So the 1s and 2s are going to fill up first, and then the 5s and 6s, so on and so forth. And you also want to count the no-named survivors in the back there that you can't control. Those are just extra mouths to feed. Same thing with the food. You also have to take them into consideration when figuring out how much food that you'll need to pay. So you've got that, and then add zombies. Again, it's again 2 for every survivor here. Over here on the non-colony locations, you're going to add 1 zombie to each location to where there's a survivor. You'll also check to see if there's any noise tokens there. And if there is a noise token, basically you're going to roll to see if another zombie is added on top of that. On a roll of 3 or higher, I believe it is, you'll add another zombie. So you can, again, rummage to get more cards, but you'll add more noise tokens, and then there's that chance that more zombies will be added than would typically be added during a player turn. or during a round, rather. So then you've got check main objective. If the main objective is complete, again, this would be right here, but if the main objective is complete, then, that's it. Players will stop playing. They'll check their secret objectives to see if they've accomplished that. And the only players that win the game are those that completed this objective and the objective on their card. Usually it lists on there, that's the betrayer card. Let's see if I can find one that isn't one. You win the game. If all of the following is true. The main objective is completed. You have at least 3 food cards in your hand. There's a desire to live. The main objective has been completed. So in most cases, one of the victory conditions is completing the main objective. But there's also that second objective here that is unique to each card. Hunger, for example. A new destination. You have at least 3 fuel cards in your hand. You have at least 2 gun cards in your hand, or 2 weapon cards. You have at least 3 medicine in your hand. And then your betrayers, of course. You win the game if all of the following is true. Morale is at 0. You can only control 1 survivor. You have at least 1 weapon card equipped to a survivor you control. And there's a number of things that you'll have to do as the betrayer. But you won't have to complete the objective, which is kind of nice. So there's that. Players will check to see if that's been completed. Where was I? Okay, move round tracker. If it has not been completed, you'll move the round tracker. And then, let's see, pass the first player token. So you're gonna pass this next first player token off to the next player, and then a new round will begin. Alright, so there you have it, a very brief look at Dead of Winter. It's important to stress, once again, I did not cover all of the rules found in the manual. This was just a very rough and dirty overview so that you could see how the game was played. Just going through all of the components and through all of the rules in 20 minutes just isn't feasible, at least for me it isn't. But anyway, as far as what I thought, this game is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. The production quality alone is just, it's great. The game came with extra baggies so that you could get all the little pieces stored away just so. So that's a plus in my book. The artwork, I mean, the board alone is nice and sturdy. The artwork is great. All of the cards, all of the artwork is just, it's fantastic. So a great production quality here. Everything looks and feels just very thematic. So, and there's the opportunity to role play if you're into that kind of thing. I'm personally not into role playing, but if you want to role play, a lot of these crossroad cards, have some type of situation. The manual even has like stories in the back that you can read off to people to sort of give you a backstory on what's going on with these objectives. So there's that, and you can even create your own backstory for your characters. If you're into role-playing, if you want to do that, you can. As far as the gameplay goes, it's a little involved. There is a learning curve. So as a cooperative game, I would only recommend this to people who have played board games on a regular basis. It's kind of difficult to jump into Dead of Winter if you're a casual gamer and not too experienced with playing Euro games and the like. I mean, granted, if you play this game with someone that knows what they're doing, you could probably get away with it. But if you have a group of people that are new to gaming or just typically play, lighter themed games, this one might be a bit overwhelming for you because, again, there's a lot of little rules, a lot of components, a lot of things. So I would recommend this to people that are familiar with playing games that take between 1 and 2 hours to play, that have a lot of little components, and are patient enough to learn the game. Personally, granted, I generally don't play games that take longer than an hour to play, but I'm a sucker for zombie post-apocalyptic games. I just am. The number of games I have on my PC Steam library is just crazy. The number of survival games I have on my computer is just staggering because I love that particular genre, and that's one of the reasons I picked this up. And the combination between the zombies and the winter and having to roll for frostbite and hypothermia or whatever the case is, it's just fantastic. It's just, there's so much, I don't know, it just hits all the right spots with me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, besides that, there's a lot of content here. The game is about $40. I think I got it for about $40 on Amazon. When it first came out, it was like $60 or $70. I was like, I'm not paying that much for a board game. But eventually it dropped to like $30 or $40, and I picked it up then. But there's a lot of content here. Like this deck alone is just all of the different crossroad cards that you're going to be going through. You've got all of these characters. It's not like 4 or 5 characters or 6 characters. I don't know how many, I didn't count, but there's got to be more than 20 here. So that's pretty awesome. There's a lot of content, a lot of different, and the different locations, by the way. have different supplies in them, and there's actually little symbols on each location telling you you're more likely to find this thing here, like you're more likely to find fuel here, or blueprints here at the library, or you're more likely to find food at the grocery store, or fuel at the gas station. So players were going to different locations depending on the need at the time, based on what the crisis says or what the main objective says. So there's a lot here, but if you're patient enough to learn the game, I think you'll be very happy that you took the time to learn it, because this is a great game, great cooperative game. Again, with 2 players, you have to play co-op, but even if you don't have 2 players, I still think the co-op is very viable. Granted, a lot of the appeal of the game is thinking to yourself, is the player to my left, he's up to something, he's got to be the traitor, or maybe he is a traitor. Or, just throwing suspicion out there onto other players, the same way that you might have felt when playing Battlestar Galactica. Is this player a traitor? Is this player not a traitor? Okay, I am the traitor, so how can I drive suspicion off of me while screwing everyone else up? So that extra element to the game is definitely appealing, but you can play cooperative, solely cooperative if you want to, and the game is fine that way if you decide to do that. So this game has a lot of different ways you can play it. There's a lot of content here, a lot of different ways you can add extra stuff like role-playing. So yeah, fantastic. Buy this game if you enjoy cooperative games, and especially so if you like zombie-themed post-apocalyptic games. So I guess with that being said, I do have a written review out there. Go check it out, www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. If you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you can keep up to date with any new content I happen to publish. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.